Hey y'all, welcome back to All Things Nikki. Hope that you all enjoy this video today. I wanted to talk about my traumatic 63-hour birthing experience and why I'm deciding to birth my way this go round when my husband and I have our baby. So before we get into this video, we have to have my shameless plug. I relaunched my candle company, Zen Air Candles. So definitely go over to www.zenaircandles.com, check out my products, and shop with me. Don't forget to use code ATN. And I love you all so much. Thank you so much for purchasing candles from me while I get my business restarted. I absolutely appreciate it. Okay, so now we're gonna get into this video. I got pregnant with my son while I was on NuvaRing. I was 20 years old in college. I was in a very abusive relationship, and I might talk about that in another video. I'm just not 100% sure if I'm gonna get all up into that because that was like a Lifetime movie. I was 20 years old when I got pregnant. My pregnancy was not 100% expected. When I did get pregnant, I went through all of the things that you would typically go through. So my birth plan, I'm a very over-prepared person. So I decided that I was going to take all the courses. I mean, I took every single class. I took birthing classes, water birth classes, infant CPR, early, like any class that any private entity or the hospital offered. I wanted to be over prepared. I had a whole birthing plan. Like, I remember I got like the little birthing ball, the water ball, the ball you sit on. Yeah, all that kind of stuff, like prenatal yoga. I tried to do everything to make sure this was like the most zen, peaceful experience of my life. And I got pregnant. My original due date was January 27th. Then as my pregnancy progressed, my due date got pushed to February 4th. They said that he was little. Then probably like at 37 weeks, like 37 weeks, they moved my due date up and said that he was going to come January 21st was my due date. My whole pregnancy, I gained 8 pounds. And a lot of that was due to the fact that I was 20 and I exercised a lot. I only drank water and I freaking was sick. Like, I had all day sickness my whole entire pregnancy. Like, it never let up. So here it is, January 21st, and no baby. So my pregnancy is deemed high risk. So I'm going to the clinic every day to get monitored on, the machine to make sure he's moving and his heart rate is okay. So I'm high risk. Now is the time where I'm kind of antsy. Like, okay, my due date has passed. It's January 22nd. Like, where's my son? This don't make no sense. So we schedule for me to be induced on February 1st. So that was the date. My doctor, disclaimer, I could have been induced before then. February 1st was the furthest they would let me go. However, my doctor was going on vacation. So I made it so that was the day she came back to work. So, I'm waiting for this baby to get here. Like, I'm just very uncomfortable. At the same time, I moved into a new apartment and my boyfriend at the time was moving in with me. So in January was a lot. So January 8th is my birthday. So I had my 21st birthday, 9 months pregnant. And then I moved into a new apartment and my boyfriend moved in with me. So it was just so much going on in January, and I'm waiting for this little baby to get here. So I was sleeping on the couch, and everybody around me was had their babies. So I'm having insomnia. Like, I really can't sleep the last leg of my pregnancy. Like, I'm very, like, it's hard to go to sleep. So my boyfriend at the time, we decided that, not we decided, but basically I kept hearing, like, if you want to induce labor, have sex. So my whole pregnancy, I wasn't feeling sex. Like, that was not on my mind. And it probably was because it was a really abusive relationship anyway. So I don't think that had everything to do with me being pregnant. So me and him had sex, and it was the most uncomfortable, awkward, just experience ever. So we have sex, and I'm laying there, and I'm like, okay, I'm not in labor yet. Like, I'm supposed to be in labor. Like, what's that? Didn't happen. So then the day goes on, and I believe this is like January 28th. Yeah, January 28th. It's my cousin's birthday, or 27th. I don't remember. I would be lying. It's my cousin's birthday. So we go visit his family. We go to visit my cousin. She's having a birthday party. So I get there. She's actually having a birthday party at my mom's house. So I get there to the birthday party, and my mom looks at me. She's like, oh, your stomach trapped. You're in labor. And I was like, I'm not in labor. Leave me alone. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I am in pain. I don't understand what the pain is, though. It's weird. So I'm just like, oh, something ain't right. So I'm like, okay, I don't know. I don't want to keep going back and forth to the hospital. This baby ain't ready to come. But something is off. So I go upstairs to the bathroom, and I pee, and it's like a gush. It's like a gush. I wipe, and it's blood, like a full-blown period, like clots, like blood. So I had lost my mucus plug the beginning of January. So my mucus plug was gone. But I wasn't dilated. So I knew that what I'm wiping is definitely not mucus plug, and it looks like a period. So I instantly start to cry. Like, oh my God. I'm terrified to have this baby. Like, he's in here. I know he has to come out, but I'm scared to death. So I instantly start crying. So my aunt comes upstairs. She's like, what's wrong? And, I'm crying. I'm like, I'm not ready to have a baby. Like, I'm crying. My mom is, on the other hand, she's like happy. Like, yes, I told you was in labor. My cousin's like, yes, we're having a baby on my birthday. Like, everybody is like pumped. Except, so we get my stuff, and we go to the hospital. So we get to the hospital, we get checked in, and I'm like, okay, I'm bleeding, and I'm overdue at this point. So the people at the hospital were just very nonchalant with me, very lazy, like whatever. So they check me in, and they're like, okay, you're 2.5 centimeters dilated, you're whatever, effaced. They plug me up, and I tell them, like, look at my chart, I'm high risk, I'm bleeding. They see the blood, because when they check me, I'm actively bleeding, and they tell me, like, okay, some people bleed in the beginning of labor, it's okay. So I didn't know that. In any of my classes, no one had talked about that. They sent me home. They say, take some Tylenol. It made no sense. Like, take Tylenol for contractions. Like, you're having contractions. Go home. I want you to time your contractions. You have a long way to go. You're 2.5 centimeters dilated. I can't keep you until you're 3 centimeters. So go home. And I'm like, I'm having contractions, and I feel them. Like, now, after that, my contractions started to pick up. So, they give me, they tell me to take Tylenol and they give me Ambien. And they say, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Ambien is a sleep medicine. It puts you to sleep. So they're like, here, take some Ambien, go home and go to sleep, and take Tylenol. So I take the Ambien. Ambien doesn't do jack but make me hazy. I can't go to sleep. So I go home and I take a bath. The stupidest shit ever. They tell me to sit in a bathtub. I don't know why they would tell me to sit in the bathtub, because how do you know when your water breaks if you're in the bathtub? So I'm sitting in the bathtub. I'm I'm in bed. You know, my mom's asleep. So I go to my mom's house because I'm scared, and I'm definitely not going to my apartment, and I'm in labor. So I just pictured me having this baby on the floor. So my boyfriend sleep, my mom sleep, and I'm up on the side of the bed, hunched over, like praying, like, oh my God, these contractions are real. So then I finally get the guts and I wake my mom up and I'm like, the contractions are coming, coming, coming. She's like, all right. So everybody stayed at my mom's house. So my aunt is there, my boyfriend's there, my cousin is there, my mom is there. Like, everybody's there. It's a celebration. Everybody link up. So everyone's there. And they're like, okay, let's time the contractions. So they start timing them. All right, contractions coming. They like 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes apart. They're like hella close together. So my mom's like, I think we need to go back. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go back and they send me home. Oh my God, I don't want to go back and they send me home. So finally, I was like, fuck it. Let's go. So we go to the hospital. They check me again. They say, okay, you are having contractions. They're very consistent. They're really strong, but you're not there yet. We're not going to send you home, but we're going to make you walk around the hospital. So I want you to walk around the hospital for a few. And I'm like, okay. So I'm walking around, but, hold on. Kicker, don't eat anything. You can only have ice chips. Okay. So shit's getting real. All right, well, I haven't had anything to eat since the 27th. Yeah. So I haven't eaten anything because I couldn't. Like, I was throwing up water. When I would drink water, I would puke. And I couldn't eat. I was in pain. So I hadn't eaten anything. So here it is, the 29th. So I'm walking around the hospital. Hadn't eaten since the 27th. I go back because, you know, I remember being in front of the chapel in the hospital and a big contraction hit. And I'm holding my boyfriend and I'm like, oh, like, you know, going through the motion. And I'm like, God, please take this baby out of me. Like, I'm not strong enough for this. So, we go back upstairs to labor and delivery, and they check me, and they're like, oh, you're not ready yet. We're going to send you home and have sex. And I basically cussed the nurse out. Like, you want me to do what? Number one, he better not even look at me. And number two, I'm in labor. Like, no. So, we go back home. So I go home and she's like, when the contractions are 3 minutes apart, I want you to come back in. So, and she's like, check, you know, make sure your water doesn't break. So this nurse says, so my mom says, oh, should I put her back in the bathtub? And the nurse is like, no, who told you to take a bath? Like, don't do that. So she's like, I don't want her in the bathtub because I don't know. I want her to tell me if her water breaks. So, you know, they check baby, he's fine, you know, go back home. So we go back home. So I'm laboring at home some more. So then I go back to the hospital when the contractions are closer together, right? So I started going. I went when I saw blood, and then I went when the contractions were 5 minutes apart. Now the contractions are 3 minutes apart. So now it's like need for speed going to the hospital. Like this, I'm gonna have the baby in the car. That's what I'm thinking. So we get back to the hospital. And they're like, you're like just there. The baby isn't coming right now. Like, this is your first baby. You're a slow progressor. Like, no. But don't leave. So they tell me to go wait in the waiting room. Not in the bed, not in triage, not anywhere. They say go sit out in the waiting room where, people are waiting for their loved ones to have their babies. So I'm out there. And at this point, I'm like, fuck this shit. Pardon my language. But I'm not going back home. So y'all gonna cut this baby out of me. Y'all gonna do something. Because this don't make no sense. It's the 29th. So, sit in the waiting room, and now at this point, I'm thinking about going to other hospitals. So, we called somebody we knew that was a labor and delivery nurse at another hospital, and we're like, yo, what happens if we just roll up and say I'm in labor? And they're like, well, if we don't see, basically, we got to see the head. But if you got time and, your other hospital is close by, we're going to transport you to your home hospital where your OB is. So we was like, all right, damn, that's not really an option. So I go back, contractions are bad, I haven't eaten, hasn't dawned on me that I haven't eaten. But my baby knew that he hasn't had any food. So I go back there and they're like, oh, yay, you went from 2.5 centimeters dilated to 6. So it was like, oh, in an hour. Great, whatever. So now they're like, all right, let's get you in the bed. Let's get you ready. You're having this baby. Bet. So we get there. We get in the bed. I'm there. I'm walking around the room. I'm laying down. And my mom, oh, wait. Backtrack. I forgot to tell y'all this. So when they sent me home with Ambien, they sent me with a prescription of Ambien. My mom went to the pharmacy to pick it up. She's talking to the pharmacist, like, can she take this? And she's in labor. The pharmacist is like, this is weird, but yeah. Like, but why would they give her Ambien? Like, okay. The pharmacist is like, you want her to have a baby? Give her some castor oil. So my mom gave me a whole bunch of castor oil. So when I get back to the bed, all the castor oil hit. Like, nothing should have been in my insides. So now I got the... Okay, so now I'm on the toilet in labor, and I call my mom in there, and I'm like, Mom, I need you to wipe my butt. So at this point, I'm begging for an epidural because the contractions are for real. So as my mom is wiping my tail, the anesthesiologist comes in. And he's like, okay, let's get you ready. And then I'm like, oh, I'm on the toilet. So my mom, I'm like, F it. He about to put this epidural in my poopy behind. Like, I don't care. I want the epidural more than I want you to finish wiping my butt. So the anesthesiologist gets there. I send my son's father out of the room. And my mom stays in there and supports me through the epidural. So I get the epidural. Everything is peaches and cream. Like, it's like heaven. It's like he just gave me some drugs or something. Well, he did. It was like, oh my God, would you marry me? Like, you literally just stopped all my pain. So I have the epidural and I'm chilling. I'm in there. I didn't know that, I probably needed to feel the contractions for the labor to progress. The nurses didn't tell me that. I didn't know that in any of my classes. So I get the epidural and I'm in labor. Everybody's coming to see me. Everyone's coming to the hospital. It's January 29th. Everybody's known I've been in labor since the 27th. So they coming to see me like, all right, she's in labor. So then I'm getting ice chips. I go to sleep. I can't really feel anything. My neck is stiff because I don't want to move anything with the epidural in. I don't know why. I thought like I couldn't move anything. I was scared that it was going to paralyze me. I didn't know anything. I was just literally turned 21 on January 8th. Here it is, January 29th. So January 30th, the next morning, new shift comes in, whatever shift change. They're like, all right, you know what? You are still at 6 centimeters. We are going to give you Pitocin. So they gave me Pitocin. Pitocin didn't do anything but make my contractions shoot up. However, I'm still at 6 centimeters. So January 30th, I'm still at 6 centimeters. Baby's still doing okay, but now things are changing. I'm really weak. I've been on Ambien, so I'm really hazy. Like I feel high. I haven't had any food. I've only had ice chips since the 27th, or since the 28th. The 27th was the last time I ate a real meal, but the 28th is when they cut off the food. So here it is, the 30th. Hazy. I'm just like, this is horrible. Can you please call my OBGYN? Well, she's not back from vacation. She'll be back in a day. So I'm just like, something is not right. They're like, well, you're not due until February 4th anyway. And I'm like, no, I'm due on January 21st. Like, go look it up. So it's that part of it. The Pitocin isn't working. So then all of a sudden I'm laying in the bed and I'm like, something real juicy. Something is real juicy. So then the nurse checks me. She's like, oh, your water broke. So here is January 30th, I think, and my water officially broke. I was like, okay, so we should be having a baby. So I dilated a little bit more. So then I start feeling the urge to poo. Like I have to push. So I tell the nurse, she checks me, she's like, but you're not all the way dilated. I don't want you to push, but I couldn't help it. So I'm like, ugh, like I gotta poo. Like I didn't know that was me wanting to push my baby. I thought that I had to fart real bad or I had real bad gas or something. So I thought I had to poo. So I can't get up. So I'm just pushing. Nothing's coming out. Well, stuff is coming out, but it ain't a baby. So then while that's happening, his heart rate drops. So it is going up and down. Now, mind you, I had a crazy little baby in the womb the whole time. Every single ultrasound we would go to, even when I was getting monitored daily, my son liked to squeeze his umbilical cord and make himself pass out, and then he'll let it go. And he'll wake back up. And squeeze and wake back up. So that's what my son did all the time in the womb. Like that was his fun time. Every time we would go in, and it just got to the point where they was like, he's playing with his umbilical cord. Like they just already knew. Like that's just what he did. So when they say his heart rate dropped, I didn't think anything of it. Like, all right, he's probably playing with his umbilical cord, but no, it dropped and it wouldn't go back. So then they say the baby took a poo. I don't even know how you know that. So like meconium or meconium aspiration or whatever it's called occurs. So they're like, oh, he took a shit. So now we got to get him out. His heart rate is dropping and he took a shit. So now the anesthesiologist comes back and like, okay, good. I'm getting you prepped for a C-section. And I'm like, what? No, I'm supposed to be pushing this baby out. They're like, oh, no, we're doing the emergency C-section right now. It's January 31st. So I'm like, no, I've been in labor this whole time. I have a birth plan that, you guys, like it's clearly went out the window, but I have a birth plan and I'm not having no C-section. They're like, your baby's heart rate is dangerously low and he pooped. So we need to get him out. So they roll me back and I have a C-section on January 31st. And then I have my beautiful prince. And it was so amazing. And I was only in my C-section for 11 minutes. Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. So all of that labor, all of that, just to end up having a C-section. I will say that my doctor who did the C-section was really good, because you can't even tell I had a C-section. Like, no scarring. But yeah, I ended up having a C-section, and I'm in recovery, and the nurses are like, your baby is hungry. You haven't had any food for days. He's hungry. So they put him on my boobie, and I'm just coming out of my C-section. So he is drinking his colostrum, and I am throwing up in the bucket. So baby's on right titty, and I'm linked over throwing up on the other side in the bucket while the nurse is catching my throw up in the bucket. So yeah, that was my traumatic birth experience. And because of that traumatic birthing experience, I decided that now, as a 30-year-old woman, I'm going to try to have a more natural birth. I'm going to get other opinions. My doctor told me that the way that my canal or whatever is set up, it's too narrow. So I would have never been able to get a baby out of there. And that was another reason why I was a slow progressor, she said. She said that she had made a note that I would possibly end up having a cesarean, that she was going to allow me to try vaginally. But she knew that I was probably going to end up having a cesarean just because of how things are set up down there. So, yeah, that was my birthing experience with my son. And moving forward, for this next baby, my plan is to get a midwife and a doula and try to do things more naturally and be more in control. So any young woman out there who is having a baby and might be in the same situation as me, didn't know much, just turned 21, had a not so healthy relationship with their child's father, advocate for yourself. And it's going to be a lot when you're in labor, but find somebody that can advocate for you. My mom didn't really know what was going on. She's like, oh my God, it's a baby up. My mom has very nervous energy. So she didn't really know how to advocate for me. So definitely have somebody there that can advocate for you. And so you can try to stick to your plan as much as possible. But yeah, that is my birthing experience. I hope you all enjoyed this I hope it's quick. We'll see when I edit it. But this story time video. I will see you in the next video in a couple of days. Don't forget to shop. I'm like Vanna White. Hold on. Don't forget to shop www.zenaircandles.com and use code ATN to get a discount. I love you all so much. I love you. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my page and leave comments down below. Let me know what your birthday plan is what your birthday plan is. I know a lot of you are TCCing too. And yeah, what you thought about the video and any other videos you want to see from me. I'll see you all later. I love you. Bye.